Good evening. Welcome to Ubuntu Channel's Meet Your Leaders tonight. And tonight, to host the program, my name is Chaza, and I'll be joined by my co-host by the name Lance Sani Banda. Tonight, we'll be looking at, the topic is freedom of expression and human rights, a mere rhetoric in Zambia's democracy. And to help us, get into discussion on the topic at hand, we do host, Comrade Frank Bwalya, who is actually, the spokesperson for Socialist Party right here. You are welcome to the program, and feel free to participate by means of sending us or dropping us a comment right in the comment section, or clicking on the link that we're yet to share in the comment section. Then you get to join us live on set. Lance, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, Chaza. Thank you so much, and good evening to the viewers. It's good to be back on the program on a Wednesday like this one, especially looking at the topic that we are looking at, which is very cardinal, and looking at the caliber of the guest that we have in the studio. I'm so excited to be here, and also so excited that this very edition today will be taking in live phone calls very soon on the program. So apart from your comments, we'll give you a number that you will be calling us straight into the studio and have a live conversation with us in the studio. Thank you so much, Chaza.
Beautiful. It's definitely a good thing to have you, Lance. I think it's been some time that we've been together right here on this platform, and I remember the time I was in the city, was hoping to actually have a glance on you, but unfortunately, one needs, ample time to enjoy, being in the city.
Definitely, that's very true. But anyway, I'm sure
Exactly.
we'll be able to meet and have just that interaction, either when you're back in the city or when I come through that side.
Beautiful. Our guest is right here with us, Comrade Frank Bwalya, once more, the spokesperson for Socialist Party. Good evening, Comrade, and welcome to the program.
Good evening. Thank you very much. It's always our pleasure to participate, to feature on this platform, knowing the command that it has, especially on issues, subjects such as the one at hand. And I wish to say good evening to all the viewers, that is, those who are in a place where it is evening. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Special greetings to members of the Socialist Party, members of all opposition political parties in Zambia. Special greetings to our president, our Republican president, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, and members of the ruling party. We pray for them. We expect them to pray for us, to pray for our country, because at the end of the day, when we speak as national leaders, we should inspire unity, we should inspire love, we should inspire development for our country.
Beautiful. It is definitely our pleasure, and profound honor to host you right here once more on our Ubuntu channel on Meet Your Leaders. Comrades, it's a lovely thing, and would like to start from the top, just in case there are people that do not know one or two things about you. Would like you to give us a highlight, a background of yourself. Who is Comrade Frank Bwalya in terms of your profession, the political background, family background, social background?
Let me start from the present to a bit about the past. I'm the spokesperson of the Socialist Party. I'm featuring on this program in that capacity. I also happen to be the chairperson for national mobilization in the Socialist Party, a party that is led by Comrade Dr. Fred Membe. He has been our presidential candidate since 2021. He's our leader We promote this brand and we promote the Socialist Party. The Socialist Party, as many know, espouses socialism. Socialism, in simple terms, is about the people having the control of the means of production. It may be more control, it may be less control, but meaningful control for the benefit of the majority and not a few. So the Socialist Party wages a struggle to narrow the gap between the rich and the poor, those who have and those who don't have. The Socialist Party espouses an ideology that is against capitalism, knowing capitalism as an ideology that is driven by selfishness, unbridled competition, an ideology that creates a society where there are few people who are able to afford to buy a liter of fuel, to buy meal, to buy fertilizer, a few who are able to have top-notch medical care because they've got the money, and the majority who are not able to have a good life, who are not able to have a roof over their head, who have no access to quality education, even in a country where education is free. The quality of that education is so poor that at the end of the day, one wishes that they would have education that they can pay for as long as it is quality education than free education, which is mediocre, which is not good enough. These are some of the things that the Socialist Party stands for, and I thought that I should say something about that. Then going a bit into the past, I am the immediate past High Commissioner of Zambia to the Commonwealth of Australia and New Zealand. So I'm a former diplomat. I don't like to be addressed as Ambassador Bwalya. I like to be addressed as Frank Bwalya. Similarly, other people address me as Father Frank Bwalya. Some would refuse to address me otherwise. I'm beginning to learn to tolerate that, to accept that. But that tells you also that I've got a background in the church, having been validly ordained as a Catholic priest. I've been a journalist. I've practiced. I was station manager of Radio Chengero for 8 years. I had a stint in the corporate world, having been board chairperson for ZESCO. I'm a Zambian, Bemba on my mother's side, Wushi to be specific, and Tonga on my father's side. That should be enough about this sometimes person described as cantankerous, as troublesome. But to some people, a very warm-hearted person who cares for those around him.
I think you've dwelt, much on the, I would say, political side and also a professional side. I'd like to have an insight also on the family side and the education side.
I'm married to a lady by the name of Joyce Mutale Nkunika, and there's a Bwalya added as somebody sang, Maureen Ndekuchinja surname. So I managed to change somebody's surname. I don't have children. So as a family, me, my wife, and some children I adopted a few years ago. They don't live with us, but we've got 3 adopted children. We adopted them much earlier. Even before I got married, I was looking after those children. 2 of them are my brother's children, and another from a distant relative. In terms of education, I trained as a Catholic priest. So I hold a Bachelor of Divinities in Theology and Religious Studies. I did philosophy before that theology. So I hold a diploma in philosophy. I'm a journalist, so I hold a diploma in journalism, a bachelor's degree in mass communication and public relations, a master's degree in public relations, and I'm now studying law with Open University of Zambia.
See how stingy you wanted to be with, such rich information. And I would, attest that for the first time, I've gotten, things that I never knew about you, education-wise and also family-wise. We are really highly indebted to you for that.
Thank you very much. I come from a background where we don't talk too much about the papers that we have in our folders. We speak more about whether we have a heart that thinks about other people, that goes out to offer a helping hand. And this is why it was a safe landing joining the Socialist Party to work with Comrade Dr. Fred Membe, Comrade Dr. Cosmas Masheke Msumari, Comrade Dr. Chris Mwikisa, and many others in the Socialist Party.
Comrade, just before Lance comes in, I would like to find out, because you have laid out, the ideologies that you do hold as the Socialist part, as compared to the, capitalist or capitalism kind of, setup. I'd like to find out, because for a long time you've been with, the PF, and you have now changed to the Socialist Party. Could it be that you have, have shifted in terms of, the ideologies that you used to have for you to get to the Socialist Party?
I know that many Zambians would agree with me that the Patriotic Front espouses a policy which is pro-poor. Socialism and pro-poor politics are not miles apart. They are not miles apart. So talking about whether there could have been a kind of quantum leap to move from being a member of the Patriotic Front to a member of the Socialist Party, I don't think that is the case. And talking about the social teaching of the Catholic Church, with that Catholic background that I have, even in that case, socialism, the Socialist Party and its ideal was not something alien to how I was prepared for the last many years, because I went to the seminary in 1989. We finished training in 2001, in 2000, in the sense of when we were ordained. So all that time was a time of formation, studying the social teaching of the Catholic Church, what are the pillars, and what you see there is not different. I didn't want to say it's not very different, because then I would imply that there's a difference. It's not different from what socialism stands for. And this is why when you look at Latin America, for instance, talking about the liberation struggle, emancipating the people in that area, you will find that many, many priests joined the struggle. Of course, there were those that went to extremes to take up arms in defense of the people. The church doesn't support taking up arms in a struggle to emancipate the people, to stop the exploitation of the people. But some priests found it necessary, and a lot of them were killed. You know, the movie about Bishop Lomero, for instance, how he was killed because of being a voice for the people. So you have martyrs, you have heroes in the church. In the same manner, you have heroes in politics. Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, just next to us here, and so on. So it wasn't difficult. It wasn't difficult, and that's why I earlier described my joining the Socialist Party as very, very smooth landing.
Beautiful. Lance, let me throw it to you. I think you've been quiet, for some time.
Thank you so much, Chaza. Quickly, I think let me get to zero in our topic of discussion. And for you, our dear viewers that have just tuned in, you are watching Meet Your Leaders on Ubuntu channel. And today's topic is freedom of expression and human rights, a mere rhetoric in Zambia's democracy. This evening, we are playing host to Socialist Party spokesperson, that is Comrade Frank Bwalya. And just before I came in, he was talking about a brief background about himself, the party that he supports, and of course, everything of his journey so far into the public life. I wouldn't call it a political life because he hails or he comes from being a journalist, from the clergy, and then active politics. With that background, Comrade Frank, do you think that, or maybe let's get to answer this topic of ours. Do you think that freedom of expression and human rights is a mere rhetoric in our democracy?
We are speaking about our country on a platform that goes beyond the borders of Zambia. Therefore, as we speak on matters of this nature, we want to make sure that we put things in their proper context, so that at the end of the day, we are not perceived just to be speaking ill of our country. Also, we don't create the impression that compared to other countries where there is no freedom, where human rights are not respected, compared to our country, we are not misunderstood as just saying something bad about our country, as some leaders in Zambia have actually done. When they have an opportunity to speak on an international platform, they are just talking about corruption at home. They are talking about how the previous government, did this and that, and so on. So coming back now to that question, we in the Socialist Party look all the time at the ideal. So as we discuss freedom of expression, as we discuss observing human rights in Zambia, we want to make it very clear that we are looking at what should be the ideal situation. And when we look at the ideal situation and aiming at that situation, it is possible in our country to look at areas that require growth, areas that require us to do more, areas that should attract condemnation, not only by Zambians, but even the international community. So in Zambia, relatively, we have freedom of expression. I am on this program as Socialist Party spokesperson. This is an opportunity. I want to believe that there is no government official that called your outfit asking you not to feature me. That is, I want to believe that was not the case. This is a form of sampling the freedom of expression that we have in our country. Does this mean, therefore, that we don't need to grow? We are already there. We have reached the ideal? No. We have seen in the recent past radio stations being attacked, being targeted. We have seen some people, so to speak, storming a radio station or a TV station. That is something that has to be called out. It is something that reminds us that we are not yet there. We haven't reached the ideal. Is it possible to reach the ideal? It is possible to reach the ideal. And if it is not possible, then we can convince ourselves that it is possible to get closer to the ideal. At the rate we have been moving as Zambia, we have sometimes moved very close to the ideal, and sometimes we have drifted away from the ideal. Under the New Dawn government, immediately the New Dawn government was elected, there was that feeling that Zambia was going to get closer to realizing the ideal in terms of freedom of expression, observing human rights. That was based on the promises that were made. Promises such as there would be no cadreism, because attacking radio stations, storming radio stations, beating up journalists, beating up innocent people expressing themselves in the manner I'm doing is also an offshoot of cadreism, sponsored by the powerful in political parties. It could even be the leader of a political party. And here I'm speaking in general terms. I'm not just referring to the ruling party, but even the opposition. It is possible for an opposition political party to fund cadres within its members, to train them to be violent, to procure weapons for them to attack other people, not just to defend themselves, but to attack political competitors. In the futile thinking, that it is one way to monopolize the political space, to make yourselves attractive. I don't know if it is possible to make yourselves attractive using violence, but of course, thinking that that way you may force people to vote for you or people to support you, it doesn't work. It will never work. So the UPND made those promises before forming government. And therefore, the anticipation, the hope, the celebration that we had shortly after Mr. Hakainde Hichilema was sworn in was based on that promise. We are now at a stage, we are now at a time when we are able to look at the short experience that we've had of this government to see if indeed they have the capacity, they can own up, they can be true to their word to bring us closer to the ideal. We believe that, relatively speaking, the UPND is taking us away from the ideal. And what I mean is this. The previous government that they like to compare themselves to was there for 10 years. They have been there for less than 2 years. And since the same things they complained about have almost all of them being repeated by their own members, then we can, relatively speaking, and from purely a moral perspective, we can meaningfully project that they would be worse than the people they condemned who governed this country before them. So yes, we have freedom of expression in our country. Are we in a position where we can say this is the best position? We don't need to do too much to improve? Not at all. There's a lot of improvement that needs to be done. Talk, for instance, as an example, issues of tolerance. We need to do more in our country to increase or domesticate tolerance, especially in the political space. I listened to and I watched a video clip of the Minister of Sports, my dear brother Elvis Nkandu, who I've known for a long time. Being a Kitwe person myself, I was bred on the Copper Belt, went to school on the Copper Belt. Much of my adult life has been spent here on the Copper Belt. I was station manager for Radio Chengelo for 8 years. I had an idea what was happening at Sokone Market, for instance, where my brother did do some work for many, many years in the market, working with the Association of Marketeers called Zanama. I don't know if it still exists, and so on. So I've known him from a long time, and I call him a dear brother. But I must say that I was a bit taken aback when I listened to that clip talking about this match, the soccer match that is going to feature Barcelona legends and the 2012 winning team, the Zambian Africa Cup winning team. And I could sense some very serious intolerance towards another public figure who happens to be the first president, who said something which, upon being reviewed by myself, I may be mistaken, were very, very valid points that he raised. But the way the minister responded, in my view, marked or was marred by a lot of intolerance and veiled threats and so on. That is not allowed in a democratic dispensation. When you have a government that espouses free expression, a government that wants to respect the rights of everyone to express themselves on matters of public interest, and even in areas where they have the authority to represent others, that kind of tone, that kind of rhetoric is not good, and it doesn't reflect, in my view, it doesn't, in our view, I shouldn't say in my view, because then I'm expressing my personal views. In our view, as the Socialist Party, we think that it doesn't inspire confidence in the political space. Somebody may say that was not about politics. Well, the minister is a political figure. The minister is a political figure. The PS is not a political figure. The PS in a ministry is a technocrat. And what we saw by the minister happens to be a politician, and took some, made some comments referring to the previous government in terms of how he claimed they have improved the situation and so on. So these are some of the few examples. I'm sure as we go on the program, we can cite a few more examples.
All right. Now, comrade, most of the times when we talk about freedom of expression, it's always given a tag of when politicians speak, because obviously these are the people that mostly cry foul in terms of their freedom of expression being infringed upon. But you have a mere Zambian out there that at some point would want to express themselves, express displeasure at what maybe the government of the day is not doing, which they expected them to do. How should government or a party in power treat comments that are coming from a mere Zambian that is not affiliated to the party?
We are living at a time in our country when we have a government that has not been there for a long time, under 2 years, and has become very, very unpopular because of failed electoral promises. What we have now seen is what happens when a person lives in fear of somebody taking their job. It could be a marriage, it could be a friendship, and so on. People can be very intolerant. They can resort to violence and all evil means to entrench themselves to safeguard their position. To use this example, whether it's a man or a woman, if they believe somebody is trying to snatch their partner, it can be nasty. This person could be a neighbor. And if you happen to drive out of your yards at the same time, there is suspicion. Somebody may suspect that this person was waiting for them to come out, for them also to come out at the same time, maybe to see who is in the car and so on. And for those who believe in witchcraft, even worse, even worse. So we have a government today that is in that panic mode. And when you are scared that somebody will take away your job, that somebody will remove you from government at the next opportunity, there is the levels of intolerance are very high. They are very, very high. So much that when you see a former president jogging, the message that you get is that he's trying to say, I'm not finished. He's warming up. And he's warming up to show that he has what it takes, or that when he comes back to recontest, he's going to become president, and so on. That's when you see, or that is the correct environment to test whether the people in government really believe in the tenets of democracy and freedom of expression specifically. So when you go to church and somebody is just expressing themselves about something that has nothing to do with performance of government, then they are left alone. They are even cheered by the same government officials. But once that person begins to say, and the price of millimil has gone up, then you hear the leader saying, ala kavidi. Ala kavidi, that expression meaning you shouldn't go in that direction. You shouldn't talk about that. You should just talk about the sinful nature of your congregants. the things that they are involved in, adultery, gossip, and so on, don't talk about government. And it's very rare in our country that a politician in government would go to church, would go to a function, and a man of God or woman of God openly addresses them and counsels them to do better in terms of looking after the people and saying to them, the cost of living has gone up. What are you doing about it? It's very, very, very rare. Look at how this government and successive governments have reacted, for instance, to the pastoral letters of the Catholic Church, something that is quite routine on the part of the Catholic Church. They issue those pastoral letters talking about a number of issues, usually bordering on the economy, the cost of living of the people, whether the economy is delivering the jobs, the good life that the people should have, the health sector. They'll talk about security, they'll talk about governance, respect for human rights, freedom of expression, which we are talking about on this program. You can see how the governments have responded to those pastoral letters. It looked like the New Dawn government was going to be one of those governments in a long time that was going to take at, and usually very veiled critique of the Catholic Church, would take it positively and try to introspect. That was not to be. It's like each time they go back to it, they see something they didn't see initially, and a new statement comes up as if the pastoral statement, that the pastoral letter they're referring to, has just been issued. But that's the letter, the pastoral letter that was issued some time ago. You've seen the fallout between the UPND and Archbishop Emeritus Teres Fompundu. Bad blood. Why? Because he has implemented what he told them before they formed government, that should you violate human rights, should you fail to perform as expected, as you are promising, we will also criticize you in the same manner we have criticized those that have governed this country before you. He has fulfilled that promise. For lack of a better term, or I don't know how I can put it, you can call it an election promise. It was an electoral promise. Electoral promise in the sense of a voter making that promise. Those who want to govern the country made the promises. A voter who happens to be George Teres Fompundu also made a promise, and he has fulfilled it. He's criticizing where necessary, where he deems it necessary. He's criticizing the UPND, pointing out the high cost of living, the failure to arrest that rising cost of living, the failure to address corruption in their own ranks, except for the previous cases of corruption and so on. I don't think even at a national event that should be non-partisan, he would be welcome, or they would be cordial towards him. Why? Because he's talking about something they don't want to hear. So in this country, you can talk about other things that don't border on criticizing the government, and you enjoy your freedom. But immediately you begin to point out the wrongs of the government, the challenges that they need to address, then you are either labeled a member of the previous government or a member in secret of one of the opposition political parties. You may even be labeled as being coming from a certain region where these people feel that they may not get the kind of support as they get in other regions. So you can even be accused of being a tribalist because you are criticizing something the government is doing or members of the government are doing, and it pains them to listen to that. This is why under the UPND government, we have seen many people arrested by only making an expression that makes them annoyed, but is not illegal, is not a crime. No one has been arrested for calling the president Chumbu Munshorolwa, but that doesn't mean that attitude is not there. That attitude of arresting somebody for calling the president Mbumunjololwa is even worse under this regime. Our brothers, Comrade Nakachinda, Comrade Sean Tembo, and so on, all these people were arrested. And immediately upon being arrested, taken to court, their cases just stole, and no one is even hearing about it, because when the dust settles, that's when people begin to say to themselves, but how do you arrest somebody for this expression? Well, it may be uncouth, it may be offensive, but not, of course, insulting, because we have got laws that outlaw insulting another person. So all those...
Comrade, allow me to cut you short because, there's a message that has been beamed, and we just need to read it out and get to find out what, the viewers or followers out there are saying. This one is coming from Fletcher Kalowe, who is saying, Comrade Frank Bwalya, you are speaking so well. What's your comment on the conduct exhibited by the media director in the Ministry of Information, Thabo Kawana, who stormed a TV station in view of disrupting the program featuring an opposition leader, or force himself as a guest even when you are not invited? Fletcher Kalowe from within Lusaka. Let me take another one. This one is coming from Obino Chileshe, saying, good evening, Comrade Frank. My question is, what are we going to do with revenue collection at Kasumbalesa border post? Looking at what is happening now, anyone can make a pay point and start collecting money. There's no sanity at all. Here, council, there Mingomba and so forth. Minjomba, I must presume that's Minjomba there. I hope that is pretty clear. Let's have another one before Comrade Frank comes in. Okay, this one is coming from Angie Nkumisa. I totally agree with you. The UPND have to address the cost of living. I presume they are saying they need to address the cost of living there. You may take those three, Comrade.
Yes, let me start with the first question. I must give a short preamble to that. I am close to my dear brother Thabo Kawana. We've worked together. He has been there for me at times when I needed a helping hand, and he has been very, very supportive on that score in the past. He wasn't feeling well at that time, but he did make an effort to attend our wedding. And I remember him changing clothes in the room where we were changing our clothes to get into the reception. That is how close I am to my dear brother Thabo Kawana, and we still speak. Now, talking about him having been there when I needed more help, I would not shy away from saying there was a time when it was very difficult to survive, when sometimes I would not have fuel. I always had something to eat because people still consider me up to now as a priest. So I would never be short of what to eat. But sometimes I would not have fuel. I may have traveled from Lusaka to the Copper Belt. To get back, you don't have enough for fuel or for a bus fare. And Thabo was one of those people that I would call on without saying Mpelako isha fuel. But each time I was on the Copper Belt and I call him and I say, oh, I have to go back tomorrow, or I want to go back this afternoon, he knew what that meant. And he would say, but Father, muise. And he would give me an envelope for fuel. We work together in the patriotic front and so on. That's the relationship I have with Thabo. And I must say that what I'm going to say about this storming of radio stations should project a certain maturity, not only on my part, but on many Zambians who would criticize their friends openly when it requires to be criticized openly. So I think that going to a radio station to go and rebut, to go and counteract whatever somebody may be saying on the program, or to give, using a very nice term, to give your side of the story, because somebody is talking about you on a program such as this one, is something that should be highly discouraged. It is something that should be criticized. I don't want to say it is something that should be condemned, because I want to be soft with my friend, but even by so saying, it becomes very clear that it is something that should be condemned. And I want to believe that my brother will rethink that issue of going to a radio station. Some people are calling it storming a radio station, to go and give his side of the story. I think he has to rethink that. Of course, this has not been done in a violent manner, but sometimes that's how you can breed violence. Let me give a scenario. My brother Tawo, or indeed myself, I hear somebody on Radio Phoenix or any radio station or TV station talking about our leader, Comrade Dr. Fred Membe, making him a target of ridicule, unfair criticism, and it pains me to a point where I jump into the vehicle with a group of 3 or 4 people, not to go and cause confusion, but to go and even humbly request that I join the panel to give my side of the story, or our side of the story. That has potential. That has potential to create confusion, even violence. Imagine that the person on that program has gone with a group, and when they see this rival group, so to speak, arriving, they think that maybe they have come to attack the person who is on the program speaking, because these things have happened. People have been beaten at Petauke radio station. I was attacked and badly beaten by bodyguards then of President Hakainde Hichilema at Sky FM in 2016. So it's possible for people to get agitated, to get intimidated, scared, thinking that the leader they have escorted to the program is going to be attacked, is under attack. So the possibility that you can have violence flaring up in that confusion is very, very high. That's one point. The other point is that my brother, of course, is a civil servant, is on the side of government. In a democracy such as ours, other people would not be intimidated. They will not feel that their rights are being violated by a person like him appearing and without notice being part of the program. Other people will not be intimidated, but other people would be intimidated. They would be scared. And the next time they are on a program such as this one, they'll be looking over their shoulders, who is going to come and join. That's one point. The other point is that this could become a culture where Mr. William Banda, who is UPND now, may also choose, because it's becoming a culture, to do the same. And what would happen if he came to a radio station or a TV station on a program where I'm featuring, and he wants to participate and I refuse? There could be a standoff. It can also be an inconvenience that would undermine even the way our radio stations are operating and so on. Are there challenges or lessons that we can learn from this? Yes, there are lessons. One of the lessons is that you, as moderators, you have to make sure that when you host us and there is no one from another side, and I'm talking about that side, that you moderate the program, and you have been doing very well, I must say. You moderate the program in such a way that you don't allow me to have a field day talking about things I cannot verify, accusing others of all kinds of criminality, defaming people and so on, who are not on the program to defend themselves. You allow us to politic, because everyone politics. When my brother Tabo Kawana is speaking on a program talking about government programs, we also sometimes feel like we should go there and say, no, the price of millimil is very high. No, when you are saying that there are medicines in hospitals, that is not correct. We feel like doing that. What has society done? there's a provision for people to call in. And even if there is that provision, we are human beings. There is no guarantee that I will go through the way my brother Fletcher Kalowe has done. There is no guarantee. So at the end of the day, my concern as spokesperson of the Socialist Party is that whatever people do, including my brother Tabo Kawana, in this kind of space, we have to make sure that we don't develop a culture where people will be going to radio stations to go and say, I have to answer immediately, personally, to be part of the program. It's a recipe for confusion. It's even a recipe for violence. So that is my comment. I've not personally called my brother to speak to him about this matter. If he listens or watches this program, we may have a conversation. And I know it's going to be a very cordial conversation. If you will not agree with me, we will at least agree to disagree. But I mean well for him. He's got a nice job that he has been given. And I'm not talking in money terms, but in terms of the opportunity to contribute to the media landscape in our country, to contribute to our development. Does he deserve that job? I want to believe the appointing authority sees that he deserves that job. Is he doing the best in that job? Yes, he's doing the best. And with our council, such as this one, he can even do better. With his counsel to me on a program even like this one and other platforms where I appear, I can become better. I can become more truthful. I can become more issue-based, and that's how we build one another. And if we can have friends like this who can criticize us and they mean well, they're not insulting us, they're simply saying, boy, if you're tefio, it's not helping, it's sending this signal. If presidents can have friends like that, and when we talk about presidents, including ourselves, those friends could be even your wife, who listens to your program, watches a program such as this one, and says to you when you are relaxed, having some munkoyo or whatever drink you want to, and so on, says to you, nomba bashibwalya fira mwala ndire palya pamunenu kuti amfwashani kuti amfwashani munishita mwala ndire ko bati question first nkala ndeno munandi. But of course, I couldn't respond like that because it has come on a public platform like this. And as Socialist Party, we need to have a position. If I say, no, he's my friend, I cannot comment, then I'm personalizing this issue. And I will not be fit to represent the Socialist Party. The Socialist Party has a position on this matter. And what I've been saying is the position of the Socialist Party. Do I also subscribe to that personally or individually? Yes, I do. If that were not the case, then I should resign from my position, because you cannot be a spokesperson for... Yes, please.
Thank you so much, Comrade Frank. Now, to you, our dear viewers, remember that the phone line has been opened. Officially, you can call us live into the studio. We are picking your calls on the number 0972 959608. 0972 959608. For those of you that are watching us from out of Zambia, please add the country code, which is +26, and then therefore you will quickly reach us live into the studio. So as we are waiting for those calls, Comrade Frank, let's get to another set of messages that have come through via our Facebook page, and this one is coming from Daniel. His question is, what's Tumbumusololwa? Okay. Thank you so much, Daniel. Peggy Zulu says, our farmers have been punished by UPND. I think this is the issue of soya beans not being part of crops or goods that FRA is buying. And then Katungu says...
Sorry, I thought that we had lost connectivity.
Okay, I'm sure you will respond together with this also last comment before I get to invite you in. So he says, you articulating so well, Comrade Bwalya. Comrade, what is your comment on how the UPND government and its leadership treating nor acting against the former First Family, and the president at large. Are we in position to allow this to continue in our democratic constitutional country, allowing police officers to prompt a private residence with full riot gear against an armed person? Thank you so much, Kek Chungu, for that message. Okay, Director, may this be the last one for this session so that we can give our guest a chance and ample time to respond. Chiponta says, one, is it logical to compare 2 years to 10 years and expecting all the problems accumulating from previous administration to be solved in 2 years? Two, Cadarism, CDF, free education, NAPSA, etc., are all these failures? Number three, what solutions as SP do you propose for the failures you have cited for the UPND government? Thank you so much, Chibonta. Comrade, I invite you to take a response to these messages.
Let me start with a few points from the last intervention. One thing should be made very clear, that where wrongdoing is concerned, you cannot say, I am at par with the previous government or the previous leader because they beat 4 people and have also beaten 4 people. That's not the way you reason. If the former president or the former government beat, for argument's sake, 4 people, as a new government, as a new president, you only beat 1, you will be put at the same level as the previous. So it's not a question of how many times you have violated the law. Once you violate the law, you become a lawbreaker. You become a lawbreaker. It doesn't matter whether you've done it once and the others did it more times. Of course, somebody would say, but you can use it as mitigation to say you are a first offender. The concept of first offender is different from what we are talking about here. This concept is totally different. Here we are talking simply about the fact that if you are going to say vote for us, we are going to end Gadarism. People vote for you and there is 30% Gadarism. You have not fulfilled the promise. It's as simple as that. If you are going to say, well, we didn't know that there was still Gadarism, or some of the people from the previous government have joined us and these are the ones responsible for this, Zambians would believe you and they'll give you the benefit of the doubt if such people are arrested and the law taking its course. So where Gadarism is concerned, the UPND government has no moral credentials to condemn anybody. There was Gadarism in UPND before they formed government. Look at what was happening when one of their leaders, including Mr. Kainde Hichilema, was summoned to go to Woodlands police station and so on. You should have seen the mayhem that their cadres were causing when they were in the opposition. So no one should create the impression that the Gadarism that the Patriotic Front is accused of during the time they were in government for 10 years was never in the UPND when the UPND was in the opposition. That is not true. Yes, we saw some very nasty attacks on UPND leaders that should attract condemnation from every Zambian. The attack on President Hakainde Hichilema at Sun FM in Ndola, that is something that should be condemned by all of us. And those responsible at that time should have been arrested. And I'm on record speaking on that. That should be condemned. And when somebody is arrested, even today, because they perpetrated that attack on an innocent citizen who was only enjoying his political and civic rights to comment on the governance of the country, offer himself for leadership, that should be condemned. Now, the UPND came into government on the promise that things would be better. that there will be no such kind of gadarism when they form government. We have not seen that. And we need to make the UPND wake up and realize that the rule of law has not come to Zambia because they came with it in a bag when they formed the government. That is not true. We, as Comrade Dr. Fred Membea said, we have always had the rule of law in this country. We have had leaders, we've had political parties that have broken the law, that have attempted to undermine the rule of law. But every time Zambians stand up and demand sanity in the political space, in governance, and so on. So this government, by the UPND, we say to them with kindness, because we mean well for this country, we mean well for them as well. They need to do more to ensure that there is zero tolerance towards cadarism. The attack on Mr. Joe Malanji, when he was still member of parliament, last year or the other year, if I'm not mistaken, went to donate health equipment at Bulangiriro Clinic, a clinic where many of the people that I grew up with, my relatives and so on, would go to. So that is even something from a very purely selfish perspective. I am a beneficiary, even as an individual. To hear that our area MP, using whatever resources, wanted to donate medical equipment, and cadres, non-UPND cadres, went to attack him. I put UPND at the same level with whoever they are condemning of having perpetrated cadarism. But what makes us very worried is this hypocrisy by President Hakainde Hichilema at every opportunity, even during Labor Day celebrations in Lusaka recently, to always peddle this falsehood that there was blood on the streets of Zambia under the previous regime. Every day, people killing each other, and these things are not happening today. This is the same president who on Youth Day this year came to Kitwe to officiate at the Youth Day, and his members unleashed shameless attack on the opposition now, the Patriotic Front, and innocent members of the public, and he turned a blind eye. Now, this is the issue. When such an event happens, very unfortunate event, the OP brief the president, because the president is in that area, whether that violence has been perpetrated by his party or another party, or even people may not even be political, the president is briefed. And security is heightened because the president is in that area. So we know that the president was briefed. And ngomwan ngawishi waba UPND, sorry to use that term that may be too patronizing, as the father of the UPND, the parent of the UPND, he would have been commended by boldly saying to the UPND, I am aware that before I arrived to officiate at this event, you, our members, targeted your friends, the Patriotic Front, and that's why they are not here. That's why they are not here. And he should have asked the party to find out who sponsored that violence, who were the ring leaders, and deal with them. Are you going to tell me that UPND members will have the audacity, their cadres will have the audacity to behave in the same manner next year at Youth Day or at any event? No. And this is why our leader, Comrade Dr. Fred Membe, has made it very clear, and he keeps hammering on the same. Mupamapamoa tulire ngoma pakomaila nondo pali ubulema. He has been hammering on that point, that as long as President Hakainde Hichilema, as the leader, makes his position against violence, against corruption clear, everyone will follow suit. Those who will not follow suit, the law will visit them. As it is, President Hakainde Hichilema is a hypocrite, is a Pharisee, who goes in church saying, Lord, listen to my prayer. I'm not like this neighbor of mine who is an extorter, who is a prostitute, who doesn't give tithe. Me, I do this, and so on and so forth. From the Bible, you know how God reacted. We are told that that man who sat behind, beating his chest. I'm a sinner, I'm sinful. Lord, forgive me. Went home justified. And this self-righteous man, who happens to be President Hakainde Hichilema, did not go home justified. We plead with you, President Hakainde Hichilema, with all the due respect that we should accord to you as our president, as my president, despite me not having voted for you. Of course, I didn't vote because I was not in Zambia. And if I were in Zambia, I would not have voted for you. I was sent by the Patriotic Front into foreign service. I have a lot of respect for President Dr. Edgar Chagwa. And if I managed to come, I would have voted for him. I would not even say the vote is secret. I would have voted for him. And I still hold him in very high esteem. I was his deputy campaign manager. And I have never, and I'll never go to a platform to go and speak ill of President Edgar Chagwa because I worked closely with him. Now, why am I saying those things? Is to lay the ground for the kind of respect that President Hakainde Hichilema should have called former President Edgar Chagwa. He is former president. He deserves respect. But above all, he is a human being created in the image of our Creator. If he has broken the law, there are procedures to be followed. If a member of his household has broken the law, there are procedures. But as it is, President Hakainde Hichilema is vindictive. They arrested him, put him behind bars. He suffered. He was at Kamfinsa and so on and so forth. But this tells you that when he goes to church, he's even an elder. When he goes to church, what the preachers say, go in through here, goes out through there. Because this elder, if he's been listening to the word of God, he must know of a man who was rejected by his right-hand man, who was betrayed, sold for his few silver pieces. And when he met that man who betrayed him, rejected him, after resurrection, he says to this man, Peter, do you love me? He says, yes, I love you. And he said the second time and the third time, and this man's conscience was pierced. And he says, Lord, you know. President Hakainde Hichilema should have a forgiving heart. He should bury the hatchet, as they say. Forgive whoever did anything wrong to him, just as much as I've forgiven him for making his bodyguards to beat me up at Sky FM in Monze. I've forgiven him, but I will not forget. And I keep talking about it only when somebody says the UPND is not violent. That's when I raise that issue, to show that even before the UPND formed the government, they were ruthless, they were violent. And you will remember that in 2015, I think, and 2016, when the Patriotic Front won, a lot of members of the Patriotic Front in Namwala and many places in Southern Province were targeted, their homes burnt down, their businesses destroyed, on accusations that they were the few people who voted for the Patriotic Front. And President Hakainde Hichilema never condemned. That's not good leadership. It's not too late. Talking about CDF, yes, they have put more money in CDF, for CDF, but they have also transferred a lot of jobs that were done by responsible ministries to CDF. That's what they have done. The example we use in the Socialist Party is that if you give me 10 buns and you give me 2 bottles of Coca-Cola to have it to myself, and then after some time, you bring 10 more buns and 2 more Coca-Colas, bottles of Coca-Cola, and you say, even this is yours, I'll be counting 4 bottles of Coca-Cola to myself and 20 buns to myself. And then within a short time, having convinced me that you love me so much, that you are so concerned about my welfare, and you want me to have all those 20 buns and 4 bottles of Coca-Cola to drink or even give the people that I want to share with, within the twinkle of the eye, you bring 5 people and you say, oh, these people are going to sit with you. Can you share those buns I gave you with them? Look, you have a lot. Share with them. And even the Coca-Cola. And then this person goes away, and in no time, they come back with 10 more people. Oh, they are all also these people. We don't have food for them. Can you share with them? When everything is said and done, can this person come to me and say they increase my allocation of food at that moment? Not at all. Because they increased the allocation, but they also increased my responsibility or who to share that food with. So more money has been put into CDF. But this government, because of being very dishonest, is not telling the Zambian people that even the scope of work under CDF has drastically increased. It has drastically increased. Does that therefore mean this whole CDF thing should be condemned? Not at all. Not at all. There are some constituencies that are making good use of that CDF. But at the end of the day, we want to underscore the point that they should not be boasting about increasing the allocation. They should boast about, for instance, streamlining the guidelines to make it easy for our people to access that CDF. They should be talking about preparing our young people, training them to access that money, start businesses, and that many of those businesses succeed, reduce domestic poverty, create even some big businessmen and women with the support from CDF. These are the things UPND should be concentrating on, not just the figure, because that seems to be the only thing they're talking about. We have increased the CDF. Come on. Talk about reducing poverty using CDF. Talk about building good quality roads using CDF. That's what we should be talking about. But this government has been implementing some of these very good policies, including the NAPSA partial withdrawal. Now, coming about to NAPSA partial withdrawal, the UPND again should not demand the kind of praise from the Zambian people to a point where one begins to think, oh, this is our money. You know what I mean? So when you have done something good, let the people enjoy the good thing that you have done. By the way, as High Commissioner, of course, money was being deducted for NAPSA. I worked at Radio Chengero. I hope Radio Chengero was remitting the money they were deducting. So I also qualify. And on a personal level, should I decide that this economy is biting, nimfulano kushitotuma taela chila kushikukula lombea fuel kambule kwa partial withdraw, I may do that because the economy is so bad. The economy is so bad, and that's why
when you do that, comrade, invite me so that we share the spoils.
I don't know if I got it, how much it would be, but I'll tell you that Shonze Sharia, because the relatives, immediately that policy was signed, the relatives started finding out in each family who they thought would qualify. And when they come to your home, then wapunda at NAPSA.
I've actually noticed that many people would talk about NAPSA before collection, but the moment they collect it, they will not talk about it. You'd not even know.
Because there's too much suffering around. Too much suffering. Once I get that NAPSA, if I'm going to get it, that 20%, I know that there will be people such as the following. Abafirwokuya kumushimukulosha abafyashi na ngukutwale chiro kuba chabafyashi. They would be asking for some money for transport because there's too much suffering. Abantu balechula, bantu bavutika, abantu nabapenga under the UPND. What the UPND...
And comrade, some people, have said that where we are much better than where we could have been if the PF continued.
Now, when you say where we are much better than where we could have been if the previous government continued, and you ask some of the people, I've met 2 or 3 people who have said that from the UPND, and you ask them what they mean, the only thing they mention is Kadarism and debt. Many of them is just Kadarism, not even debt. Creating the impression that the Kadarism we experienced in the past, and it should be condemned. And I feel shameful that I was at one time part of a party that had a few bad people, bad eggs that perpetrated that culture in the same way some perpetrated that culture in other political parties, the UPND, to be specific. So they only talk about Kadarism, creating the impression that those days cadres would just start going door to door beating up people. Am I denying that Kadarism? That Kadarism was there. But the cadres mainly fought amongst themselves with rival groups from other political parties and so on. And there was a failure of leadership on every side to stop that barbaric behavior. And there is still political failure, lack of leadership to stop it today.
I'm glad, comrade, that you do agree to some extent with that statement, and I'm also glad that you are not as biased as one may expect you to be. You are able to make cognizance of the good side of the current government. I won't be as selfish. Also, let me take up a comment or question that is coming from the follower out there by the name Abraham Ngandu, who is actually saying, "Good evening, Comrade Bwalya. The Food Reserve Agency has announced the floor price from for a 50 kg bag of maize, which they will be buying at 280 kwacha, and that FRA will not buy soybeans. What is your party's quick reaction on the announcement?" Abraham Ngandu from Ndola. Kindly take that one, comrade.
If FRA doesn't buy soybeans, which is a crop that should be encouraged to be grown in our country because of its benefits and because of the money that you can make when you add value to this crop, then the UPND government cannot claim commitment to agriculture diversification. Even broadly speaking, just in general terms, diversification. They cannot. So we are urging as Socialist Party this government to rethink. Maybe we should say not to rethink, but simply to think. Because you ask somebody who has thought about something and then may be mistaken or they take an action that is not correct, then you ask them to rethink, meaning to think again. But this government, we are just asking them to think because in the first place, they didn't think. So we can't ask them to rethink. We're just asking them to think about this. It's not good. Let them have policies to encourage growing of soybeans, sisal, groundnuts, and so on. Let's have oil from soybeans. Whatever comes from there for stock feed, export this stock feed. Even at home, we have a big market for stock feed, I mean. Coming to the price of maize, I remember some time ago engaging in a conversation, except I can't remember. I think it was on social media, but not on a radio. or TV stations such as this one. And I remember commenting on my own, appearing on a program, commenting on this matter in reference to what President Hakainde Hichilema had promised. He promised, if I am not mistaken, that he was going to give farmers 400 kwacha for a 50 kg bag of maize. I stand to be corrected, but it was a high figure, And then in the same breath, promising to reduce the price of mealie meal. And I remember strongly questioning that economics. Because if you are going to say, and this is the example I was using, you use flour to make fritters. You use flour to make fritters. It means that when the price of flour goes up, also the price of fritters will go up, all things being equal. However, if the major ingredient in fritters is, for instance, cooking oil, baking powder, and so on, in that case, if flour is increased, one can justify the price of fritters, if itumbua, not going up too much, because the other ingredients either have been reduced or they have remained the same. That does not apply when it comes to mealie meal. Mata bafeera inefyayo bagaya yasanguka ubunga. The meal, the maize grain to give you mealie meal. Nothing added in many cases. I don't know, sometimes they may add some vitamin A or whatever. But ubunga tulia, it's just pour a bag of maize grain in the meal. What comes out, you take. If your friends were making some unshima and it's not hard enough because you don't have enough mealie meal, and straight away you pick, put in there and continue cooking. How possible is that? So we want to ask the New Dawn government, what then are they thinking about the price of mealie meal going forward? What are they thinking about? What are their plans? How are they going to sustain affordable price of mealie meal? They need to tell us, because they've made this policy. It's not for us to condemn something that is good. The farmers need to get value for their their labor, and so it is something good for them. But at the end of the day, farmers are not the only ones. Even the peasant farmers are not the only ones in this economy. They are not the only ones in this country. The farmers grow maize. A medical doctor requires mealie meal. He doesn't grow maize, or he may not grow maize. Some do. So this is how we have these economic dynamics and interactions. And the government is there to ensure that all these things, these dynamics are managed in such a way that you and I will afford mealie meal. That our mother who grows maize will also be happy that they are getting good money for the maize that they are growing. So it's not easy, and we don't want to claim ourselves as the Socialist Party, because we are honest people that we have easy solutions to this. But it's the government have a responsibility to educate us, to make us appreciate these policies that they are implementing.
Thank you so much, Comrade Frank. You know, time is not really on our side, but allow me to invite Mukelebai to make a comment within 60 seconds, and then we'll give you a chance to respond to that. Mukelebai, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening, War Ambassador.
Good evening.
Thank you so much. I have heard what you have said, and I just want to know on your position as a Socialist Party, what on the current situation that we are busy facing as a country. Is it fair, of all fairness, for you, the opposition, to come and point a finger at this 1 year, 8 month government, that things that are happening today as a result of their policies today that development ought to have been seen within 1 year, 8 months they have been in office, bearing in mind what you people, when you were in the opposition, in the ruling party, the things, the policies that you made that are still affecting the country today. Is it fair for you as the opposition to point a finger at this current government for these hardships that we are currently facing as a country? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mukerebai. If you can quickly respond to that, comrade, as we are also coming to the close of the program.
The UPND have not been in government long enough to have started a power generation station, hydropower, electricity generating station. They haven't been, but they claim credit for ending load shedding. We shouldn't forget that. They've even claimed to have built the Kazungula Bridge. So why is it that when it comes to matters of this nature, they want to claim credit? When it comes to things that they are, the mistakes they are making, then they don't want to admit to take responsibility. Then they say it's those before us. So if Zambia national team loses to qualify, they will say it's because of the bad policies of the Patriotic Front. If the same Zambia national team qualifies, they will say it's because of our good policies. We are paying them more than and so on. That should be the context. Now, on a serious note, that may have been more on a Kantankara side, but on a serious note, we in the opposition are not expecting miracles from the UPND. If there are miracles we are expecting from them, it's the miracle of honesty to fulfill the election promises, which they made out of their own volition. So if UPND said they will reduce the price of fuel, petrol to 17 or to 12 because the Patriotic Front was stealing 3 kwacha per liter, we cannot say they have been there for a short time. They will decrease, they will reduce the price of fuel later on. No. We as the opposition have to speak the language of the people and demand that they stop stealing that 3 kwacha they claim their predecessor was stealing. To conclude on this matter, as Comrade Dr. Fred Membea said, when you get on the bus and the bus is heading south and you are going to Kitwe, which is in the north, you don't need to sheepishly sit in that bus in the hope that when it gets to Choma, it will tend to start heading to Kitwe. Stand up, tell the driver you are headed the wrong direction. That's what we are saying to the opposition. I mean, sorry, to the government. As they say in Bemba, ichikwanka bachimwena kumampalanya.
All right, comrade, before I call in Chaza to close on the program, I just want us to do one funny thing. Kindly, tell us one funny fact about you.
One funny fact about me. I've never thought about that.
Okay.
As a fact, I don't know. That I can be funny sometimes, and I can crack jokes that would really make people laugh. My late mother-in-law enjoyed some of those jokes, and she enjoyed my presence. Yes, sometimes I can be quite a comedian.
Well, Chaza, over to you. Thank you so much, comrade.
That's really, a light moment there. All right. We've been right here on Meet Your Leaders. Due to time, I wish we could go on, and a lot more was, so exciting, right here And just like he has indicated himself, Comrade Frank Bwalya, I've known him to be, a jovial person. And, you wouldn't have a dull moment with him. And it's one aspect that I do appreciate. Today, or rather tonight, we've been looking at the topic is freedom of expression and human rights, a mere rhetoric in Zambia's democracy.
We didn't do justice to human rights, more to freedom of expression.
We need to have part two of, this discussion to actually delve into the other aspect, that we have left out. And, director is listening. I'm sure we'll definitely get to call on you, especially that you opened your doors for us, you said anytime. So definitely the director will get to arrange, and it will be our pleasure to actually have you right here. And we also do appreciate those people that have been following through, Facebook, those questions, those, contributions. We greatly appreciate, not forgetting the likes of Edith Chibwana, Kakchungu, Twiza, Lydia, Fletcher, Obina, Angie, Daniel, Peggy, Chibonta, Dalis, and not forgetting Abraham. We greatly appreciate, because because you are. This is Ubuntu channel, and we greatly appreciate. We've been talking to Comrade Frank Bwalya. My name is Chaza, right here, and my co-host Lansani Banda. Till then, we are saying God bless you all and take care of yourselves.